This episode of Power Women of the Trades is also brought to you by Forrest Perry of Forrest Perry Digital Marketing. Want to generate more leads for your service business? Trust his team to deliver quality new customer leads and protect your brand online. Check out perrymarketing.com today.
Hello everyone. We want to give a quick shout out to our amazing partner, Rilla, the game changer in the home service industry. Rilla's virtual ride-along software means no more physical ride-alongs. With Rilla, you can coach your team virtually 100 times faster and boost your close sale rates like never before. Don't miss out. Join the movement today and watch your sales soar. Visit rilla.com/PWT to learn more.
Most businesses' online presence is boring. And by being boring, they're losing out on potential sales and customers. Being interesting and exciting is what draws customers in and gets them to buy from you. But it's hard to be interesting online when you're focused on running your business and taking care of your customers. It doesn't have to be this way. We have the key to unlocking the solution to your problem. Key Heart Marketing can help take your business from boring to brilliant on social media. We can vouch for them. They run our podcast socials. If you want to have a strong social media presence that allows customers to know, like, and trust you, connect with Key Heart Marketing at keyheartmarketing.com. Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Power Women of the Trades podcast with Cassie and Heather. Today we have Adi Klevit from Business Success Consulting Group. Welcome to the show, Adi.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Hey.
Awesome. Leslie and I, back in the beginning of the Power Women of the Trades podcast, talked to you. And so I'm excited for Heather to get to know you and for our listeners to catch up again. One thing that I know for sure is you are the process queen.
Thank you. Yes.
Process queen. So tell us about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me back on this podcast. And what we do is in my company, we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures for companies. Mm-hmm. We work with many companies in the trades, many women in the trades, and we love helping that industry, and it's great. And that's why I really appreciate you having this podcast and reaching out with knowledge to so many women that are part of it. And that's what we do. We basically create processes and procedures and bring order into companies.
But it's not just like you create it, you make the process. So think about the things in our life that we're like, we just need a process for this. And then we sit down at a meeting and we talk about it and we made the process, but then what did we do with it? It's just we just verbally said it, right? And you document it and you put it and you're making the manuals and those types of things, correct?
That's right. So we create it, right? I mean, if there is no process, we'll help you create it. If there is one, we'll extract the knowledge and we'll document it. So we can create and document. But then we also optimize and implement. So processes are just as good as they're being followed by everyone. So we don't just stop at documentation. We make sure that they're actually being implemented across the boards in the company.
Awesome. So what do you feel like in our space, in our trade space, what do you think is the most common process that you're having to help build?
It's a good question, and it really depends, because it depends where the company is at and what is the main focus. We obviously help document all of them. So we can start with HR, sales, call center, installation, production, business development, accounting. So we help create all of them. But the most common one that we will start with is the one that is giving you the most trouble,
Mhm.
right? So what we like to find out first is what area in the company, if you had well-documented processes and procedures today that are being followed by all, will give you the biggest return on investment.
Mhm. What
And that's where we'll start.
what got you to this space? Like how did you get into like doing this in the trades?
So what got me in general, I'll start with what got me in general, and then we'll talk about the trades. So, I'm an industrial engineer, so I've been doing it for over 30 years, process improvement, bringing order into companies. And it was always, I love doing this. I love putting
Mhm.
order. And I worked as a general business consultant for years. I work in different companies, in international companies, and throughout my career, I'm not going to get into it right now, but at some point I decided, okay, I am going to start my own company. And I did. And actually, the first few clients that I had were from the trades. They were in construction. And I would tell them every week, okay, you need to have processes documented. Yes, we know, but it's the putting out fires and production and sales, and all of that was definitely something that was all those things were always a priority. And I understand, because when you run a business, you can't just extract yourself to sit down and write processes. So then I say, okay, well, after that happened week after week, I said, okay, how about if I write it for you? I said, really, you can do that? I said, yeah, absolutely, because we need to get it done. So I started with one company and I created the processes and procedures. And I go, wow, this made a huge difference. And we saw the difference that it created when we implemented those processes.
Right.
It created consistency, right? Now they can onboard easily. They can actually make sure that each customer is getting the same service and so on. So then I thought that there is a niche, there is a need of done it for you. And that's how it started. And in the trade, we don't just work with the trades, but we have a lot of experience doing it, because we've been doing it since that particular writing processes since 2011. So it's been quite a while, and we gathered that experience and we gained that experience working with, one client recommend another, and then we go to trade shows that have to do with the trades and evolve.
What do you think, so what is the freedom formula?
The freedom formula is, the way it came about is we surveyed entrepreneurs and we asked them, what do you like best about being a business owner? And the number one, what do you think they said?
We don't know.
Freedom.
Freedom.
That's what they like the most, is the freedom,
being
right?
lost.
We actually have freedom.
It's
what
what?
you say, Heather?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely having the freedom.
Oh, I said you want to be the boss, but then you don't have the freedom. You start a business and then you're like,
That's exactly right, because then we asked them, what frustrates you the most about being a business owner? Is not being able to materialize that freedom, right? It's like, when actually, like in terms of what frustrates you the most, it usually was like running personnel, being responsible for everyone, the problems, like all of that. So it's basically, what do you like most is the freedom, or what would you like to accomplish the most is having that freedom. But then on the other hand, so you have the desirable and the undesirable, and how do we actually fill in the gap? So that is the freedom formula. It's like, how do we get from feeling overwhelmed, working 80 hours in the business or more, not being able to take any time off, being caught in that day-to-day that you feel like you never can get out of it, to achieving that freedom. That is the formula.
Right.
So how do you, if a new client hires you, like you get a referral, you call this new client, what is the first few things that you do to kind of identify what are the major needs of that business?
Yeah, so the first few things that we do, that I always do, is first of all, find out the why. Why do they want to document their processes? And just if somebody says, well, I want to document it because I read it in a book, or, I know it's needed as a business owner, or I went to a conference and I was told, that's not enough. You really have to know, you have to have the passion to do that. You have to have some kind of a result that you are looking for, that's what's going to motivate you to actually go through the process. So maybe why is retention of employees. You know that if you're going to have good processes in place, people are going to want to work for you. Maybe you have a key employee that is leaving in a few months. Okay, so what do we have to do with that? Like, how can we extract the knowledge so that knowledge is not lost? Maybe you're losing customers because there are too many errors, too many callbacks. Okay, that's your why. You want to reduce the errors, reduce the callbacks. So all of those are your whys. So first of all, find the purpose, find the why. Why do you want to do that? The second thing that we establish is the measurements of success. So if we actually engage and we create all those processes, how would you know that that project was a success? And I like to actually come up with objective measurements, right? Because sometimes here, I mean, there can be subjective measurements. Well, people are not going to come to my office anymore and ask me questions because they were going to be able to find it as a process. Okay, good.
Right.
So that is definitely a measurement of success. But what would you do with that time? That's going back to the freedom formula. How would we measure that you actually accomplished the freedom? Would it be that now you can take a vacation before you couldn't? So 2 weeks of vacation uninterrupted, and the business is still doing well when you come back. That's a measurement of success. Going back to the examples of the callbacks. Okay, maybe you're getting that many callbacks. All right, so right now, 10%, it's 10%, let's get it down to 2%. Okay, so that can be a measurement of success. So we establish that because we gotta see how successful, like how will we measure that this was good and you're actually using it. When we're done with that, then we go into the step of figuring out the prioritization. So we map the processes in the company. We map the processes in the call center, and we do process mapping. Basically, we take a whiteboard, an electronic whiteboard, sticky notes, and here are the processes. What's the input? What's the output? What are the decision points? What are the key points we need to address? And then we prioritize. We have categories to know how to prioritize. As I said, the question is, what area in the company, if you had processes and procedures, will get you the biggest return on investment? And return on investment, obviously you want to go for profit, but there can be different areas, different criteria you can judge it by. What areas are you going to lose knowledge the most? What areas directly impact your bottom line? What areas are dependable, like one depends on another, so you have to document that because that will affect that many areas. Right. And so on. So we have about 7 different criteria that we use in order to figure out what are the prioritizations. So we prioritize it. And then
So, I mean, I immediately think like, this is amazing. I love this. I love all of this because we talk a lot about quality at our business on the podcast because we are in extreme rapid growth. And so some things going backwards on some things to create things. But one specific thing, like I can probably identify in myself too, is like most entrepreneurs, owners are control freaks.
That's right.
So how do you navigate that? And then how do you, and then what's your advice to the control freak that's like, she'll never, because I think for me immediately, I'm like, how could they pull all of this information out of me? How could you, so how do you navigate that?
Good. So there are 2 things.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. And it comes up a lot. So that's really good. That's why I'm starting with the why, really having a session with you. So let's say, okay, let's talk about you. Let's say we are doing, you want me to figure out, okay, how I'm going to make sure that you can let go. Good. We're going to do like a long session there, really understanding your why. What do you want to accomplish in your business? And then get you to really look at, can you really do it while you are wearing all those hats? If you are not letting go of those hats, can you actually do it? Now you can tell me, you know what? I can't let go of those hats. And I go, you know what? You probably should work with a leadership coach and figure it out because there is a problem there. But if you see for yourself that if you're going to wear all the 30 hats yourself, but you still want to accomplish this goal and it's not going to work, then you go, okay, you know what? I need to delegate. So that's the first thing. That's the first hurdle. And the first step in the freedom formula is to actually recognize why do you want to document and that it's really going to help you to accomplish your goal.
So then once you do all that, right? Because I can just like hear that through the years, and I've talked about this a few times, as we have implemented processes, we have lost employees because a lot of the times they don't want the process. They want to run amok and do things like, what do you mean I have to come to work? And then if I don't, I get in trouble. Or what do you mean I have to clock in? If I don't get paid. Or what do you mean I have to wear booties to the customer's house because that's the expectation, and all of those things, right? And so through the years, the quality of employee for us has changed because we need people that want to be structured, and by doing so, we've just evolved into a different company, right? But how do you help the owners then, once you get those processes of that employee that's like, you're micromanaging me, and we're like, no, this isn't micromanaging, this is just telling you how to do it,
Yeah, well, it's just about quality of employees, because when you don't know what you don't know, and we just talked about this earlier this morning, when you don't know what you don't know, you're just hiring people to do the jobs that you need done. And then as you grow and develop as a company and start putting in the processes, the procedures, the SOPs, the tools that we're measuring our success or measuring our efficiency or KPIs, the things that we talk about all the time, you start attracting a different caliber of employee, and you start realizing what it is that you don't want. Kind of like when you start dating and you find, a guy or, a girl that you have something in common with, and then, the relationship progresses on and you're like, wait, this isn't really what I want. And I think we do that sometimes in our businesses is, like we think we're going down the path that are, is in the owner's head of their vision of where they want to see the company. But employees, setting that standard with employees, not everybody's going to conform to that. And then you start attracting better quality candidates when you have those processes and procedures in place, right? Because you're going to identify those pieces about bad employees that you're not even going to entertain in an interview. You're going to finish the interview and know that's not the candidate for you.
That's exactly right, because the employees that got you to a certain level are not necessarily going to be the same employees that are going to get you to the next level. But they can, because you can use the processes and procedures to train them, those that would want to get trained, those that see the future. Then you're using those processes to elevate them to the next level. So
if they're willing to do that. And that's, I think, the big key factor is, are they willing to grow? And a lot of times people don't want to change. They don't want to do anything different than they've done it the last 10 years.
You're absolutely right. And that is the key word you just said, Heather, is willing. Are they willing? But we also, so my philosophy is that, because we've done it with hundreds and hundreds of companies, and sometimes people just fear change because it's change. And they can be willing and they can be really good employees that you don't want to let go, but it's just the way you present the change. So that's why we apply change management. And when we start a project and go into a company, we have a whole procedure of how we roll out the processes. And we involve the people in creating the processes, and also make sure that they also see, we talked about the why exercise, we do it also with the employees. What is in it for them? How is that going to improve the quality of work? How is it going to improve their career path? How is it going to let them advance? And those that can see it, they will continue and they will welcome the change. Those that, like Cassie was saying, in terms of like, what do you mean you're now telling me to do this and this and that? They just don't belong anymore. And now when you're going to hire to the existing culture, which is also a process-driven culture. So you will hire those employees that embrace having a structure as opposed to just anarchy that they can hide behind things and not do things and not be noticed.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough battle it's hard to explain until you live it. Like, I just remember being the smaller contractor and just kind of just like running amok. Like, we were just doing whatever, there was no control, and then starting to put those things into place. And now I just can't tell you how much people want the structure. They just have to realize that that's what they wanted. They want to know that they can find the answer to this here. They want to know that this is how it's going to be held accountable every time, or this is the plan. And, but it takes a lot of like time, like having someone like you that can just like pull that information out of you. is super impactful. And like I said, I can speak from not us specifically, but I know Leslie with Champion Plumbing had used you guys and you helped get all of this stuff in line. And she was like, the relief it gave me of being able to have an answer for the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure you experienced too, once you put your processes or started to put the processes in place, there was a change, right? I mean, you now were able to wear the CEO hat, the visionary, create, as opposed to answer questions and wearing all these multiple hats.
Yep. And you know, I know that most listening that are owners will identify and really understand what I mean by this is like, if there isn't a process written down that someone can go to or you can hold accountable to, if someone doesn't know something, the default answer is you, the owner. And they're coming to you because they needed something. And you're like, but I've told you this 500 times, but it wasn't documented. It wasn't wrote down. There wasn't a plan. And so some of our days are exhausting because we're repeating the same things that we have failed to systemize and then put together.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And sometimes it's not just the repetition of the question, it's also the consistency, because you might have you might be in a hurry and you're not answering the same way that you would have answered if you had more time to answer, or maybe you just decide, we're going to try this, as you said, we're kind of like running amok and whatever we did this today, we're going to do it this way, and then it's not the same. It's not consistent.
100%, because and every single time someone will catch me on that. Well, last time you told me this. Well, then didn't you go to last time's conversation? Why did you ask me again? Because you did. You caught me in the hallway as I was filling up my coffee, or you caught me here, or you caught me there. And that's one thing, like, really with my husband and I, we go home and we download, and Oscar and I do two very different jobs during the day, like a lot of people's favorite question is, how do you work with your husband? And I'm like, we're fine. I don't see him most of the time until we go home, because
that's really true.
It really is. Like, I was talking to him yesterday and I was like, where have you been? And he's like, I've been on the phone helping this technician troubleshoot for 3 hours. There are two other managers that got to him, or they go through before it gets to him. So if he was on the phone, like, it was important, it was crucial, and he did that, but I don't see him. Right. But there are some things, that we'll put into place. And the other day he said something and he said, yeah, I told them to call this person. And I was like, that's not the process anymore. And he was like, he literally was like, dang it. He knew that. But he defaulted to the old process. And I'm like, so we course corrected or whatever. But in the moment, the person who asked him that, they also knew that wasn't the process. Right. And they caught him in a moment where they knew that they were going to get to go back to the old process because Oscar told them.
Exactly. So that's where it has to be documented, accessible to everyone. And then you train your leadership team, you train the managers. When you're being asked a question, you tell them, well, do we have a written process? So go look at the process. Now, just want to make sure that we understand that we're not cutting the communication, or there is going to be less communication because of that. It's not, because you can always say, read the process, and if you need coaching on it or you have any questions, then come to me with specific questions. But after you read the process, the majority of the time, there's going to be no questions. Yeah. So there's so much here that is like, if there were enough hours in the day, I could solve the world. And I think we all feel that way. Right. And then I feel like sometimes if someone could just get in my brain and take it all out, it would be. And I know our team feels the same way, right? Everyone has their own thing. There's so many pieces in and again, we talk so much about quality because Heather and I obviously both work here, but we grew so quickly and things have changed. But then there are so many things that, like, I'm not even, like, as the owner, am not in charge of anymore. So I have to go back and ask, but then who is in charge of that now? And things like, you are not prepared for the growth ever. But true. You've got to slow down. And that's one thing too, that I think we could just like talk about forever of, you're never prepared for the growth. You just got to keep remembering. And I've talked to so many people that they're like,
do you feel like every day is chaotic? I'm like, yeah, girl. Like I've just come to realize that like, that's just life. And when we reshape what chaos looks like, then we're just like, this is just life, right? This is just operating a multi-million-dollar business. But there are so many, like, entrepreneurs are so bad about wanting to keep the control because it brings them value. It shows them as being valuable. Like, I can't put that process down because why will you need me?
That's true. I mean, that is definitely a shift in mindset that is needed in this point, right? Because if you feel like, okay, why do you need, if you don't need me, then we have a problem. And that's why it's the freedom formula. Because you always have to know where you're going. If you want more freedom for what? To create another business, to do this or to do that, you have to have a goal. Otherwise, your goal is to create that chaos and continue doing it. But the other thing is, like, in terms of control, if you actually have a process, your control will go in because you can always measure the output. You can measure, as Heather was saying, we have the KPIs, we have the measurements. If you actually have an orderly process that you follow, then you know what the output should be. And take a look. Are your employees getting the output or not getting the output? Are you getting the 5-star reviews? Are your customers happy? Do you retain your employees? Good. It means that they're actually following the process. And you can always improve it to make it more efficient, to make it better. And now with AI, you can use tools, you can do a lot of things, but you still can retain control. But control doesn't mean that you have to have the hands in the process on every single action that you do, because you will never expand.
Yeah. So when you, whether someone's working with you or not, and you're building the process, what is the best way to keep track of it? Like, is there software or where do you put it all?
Yeah. So we use online platforms, process documentation platforms, and we house the processes there, because one of the key things is that you have to make those processes accessible. You can't just write them and put them on some drive or shared drive, because it's just not going to be organized. People are not going to find it. Then you have to mess with the editing of it and the formatting, because it's very important. Now you think, well, that's how important can it be? But it's very important, the appearance of it, right? I like it all to be uniform, because then you know that it is ABC company's processes. Just like you want your techs to wear uniforms, so they know, so everybody, whoever the homeowner that opens the door, they know that they came from your company. And there is that identification. Of course, there's also the promotional aspect of it, but it also, what does it communicate? It communicates, I'm here, this is my position, I'm a technician for ABC company, and I'm here to help you and to fix the problem in your home. The same thing is when you have that document that is known that it's on this platform, that means it got approved. But there are also other benefits like version control, ability to upload videos very easily. The main thing is that it is the single source of truth, meaning this is the point of truth, that you know that this is the way that the most current process is, and that's where it sits.
So is that like Trainual? I think I've heard of.
Yeah, like Trainual, Suite Process. Yes, absolutely.
Is there one that you prefer?
I like many of them, and we use many of them. And if our clients already has a subscription to one, we'll use that. If not, we will recommend. For the trades, I use Suite Process. We use Suite Process, Trainual, Well.io. So we have different options. It really depends on the organization, what they like, what they need. And we have some clients that have their internal wiki already built. We'll use that. So we try to make it very easy, but it has to be a single platform where everyone has access and they will log in order to access those processes.
Yeah. I like it. I think there's so much like goodness here. And I remember, like I said, I was excited to interview you again because I remember my my episode with you with Leslie. And I think if we went back to that, I was like, Adi, you've got to come to quality. And I mean that every time I say that. And then, life gets crazy. But I can tell you when I don't stop and do things like that and actually have you like help us or have that person, I can tell you like 2 years later, you told me these same things 2 years ago. And some of our processes are wrote down now, but they're not all in one place. And it's funny because it's just as simple as, I almost posted this on Facebook yesterday. Kaylee's going to kill me. But it's like when you're trying to get a Gen Zer to, Kaylee, are you Gen Z? She said, I think so. When you try to get a Gen Zer to use OneDrive, she's laughing, instead of Google Docs or Google Drive, right? But like,
oh my God, yes.
And so like at Quality, we use OneDrive, and it's driving her crazy because she uses Google Drive. But I'm like telling her, listen, girl, I'm not trying to make your life miserable. I'm just trying to get everything in one spot, right? And she's like, I know, but that's her habit, right? That's what she used. And previously we used Dropbox, but then I realized we were paying for Dropbox when we also have OneDrive already paid for, right? So we're just pushing everything back. And so we could stop paying multiple things. But just as simple as that, trying to get everything for marketing into OneDrive, into one spot, right? That's been a chore.
It is because you see, the thing is, I know because we do it for clients, they will have it all over, and then we'll migrate everything so we can start working on it, right? So then we can start bringing it up to a certain level, like the same voice, the same communication, etc. So I know, because I can tell you internally, if I didn't have a team doing that, I wouldn't get to it either, and if I didn't allocate a specific person, we will never have time for it, because our clients will always take priority. So at some point I had to say, hey, wait a second, we are basically doing the same thing that our clients are hiring us for. I can hire, who am I going to hire? I'm going to hire the internal team. Internally, you are in charge of that, and you're doing that. And I started creating videos that they start writing processes accordingly. And I know, because I went through it myself, so I understand exactly the challenges. It's kind of like, how is anyone going to get out of my head how I service a client, or how I do this, or how I do that? But we have the methodology. That's why we do knowledge transfer. It's not just order taking. Okay, so show me how you do this and this and this on the computer. No, it goes into best practices. And, there's this thing is called tacit knowledge, which is basically the knowledge that we have, but we can't really communicate it because we don't know. It's kind of like, oh, that's the way I do things,
Right.
So like, let's say if I was in customer service, well, yeah, of course I can handle any irate customer because I know how to talk to them. But that doesn't help, because then you can create 10 other customer service representatives like you. So 100%. What do you do? How do you do it? So we had to figure out internally how to do that, and then help our clients with it. So it's best practices. What's your attitude? How do you do? What are the most common complaints or the common things that, let's say, clients say, if we take the CSR example, that you have to handle, and what are the scenarios? What is important to you? What is a non-negotiable? And then you start building those things one by one, and before you know it, you have policies and procedures about it that basically allow you to multiply.
I love it. I think we could just chat forever, because I want you to just like pull all of the info out of my head. I wish you could. But it's been great to catch up with you and to learn even more about what you have going on. If someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
The easiest thing is call us or text us at 503-662-2911. So that's 503-662-2911. You can find me on LinkedIn, Adi Klevit. You can go to our website, bizsuccesscg.com. Write me an email, adi@bizsuccesscg.com. And we also started
You started a podcast.
Well, I have a podcast already, like for the last 4 years, so definitely people can listen to it. It's System Simplified. And I also started a YouTube channel, so you can go to YouTube and search my name, and then I'm answering all the questions about how does AI integrate into processes? What are the AI tools to use? I mean, different questions that, I answer different questions about that. So there's plenty of opportunity to find out somewhere. So yes.
Awesome. We'll make sure to include all of that in our show notes too. And again, thank you so much for catching up with us today. And we hope to catch up with you sometime soon.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review at Apple and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.